This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. And for those of you who listen in on a regular basis, you know that I invite guests on who um, have come to an understanding with themselves that, oh, I see the light, or I see the darkness and I need to get through it. And that happens to be our guest today. Cindy Van Arnam. Did I say it right? Oh,
You did.
I am terrible with names. You can tell me your name 2 seconds before I say it, and I always say it wrong. Um, but what I found interesting in your bio was really in the first line. It was like, I don't need to read anymore because now I'm really interested. It says, I'm deeply passionate, and I love that word, about guiding you to your edge. And I have to tell you that uh, the majority of my life, I feel like I've been on the edge.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not one who will ask for help very often. And so I teeter. And unless somebody actually notices it, um, I either stumble and have to figure out the answers for myself, or I just pretend like I didn't do it, and let that fade away. Um, but what I've been learning since I've been doing these specific podcasts on Avoid the Maze is that we are all on this journey of life. And we all think that somebody else has a better life than ours. Right now, I'm looking at your hair, Cindy, and I'm just dying for my hair to get longer and longer. Um, and it's taken 2 years to get this length, so I don't think I'm gonna get there. But we all see something in somebody else that that's who I wanna be. And
Mhm.
yet we look in the mirror and we notice all the things that we don't like. Our hair's not long enough, it's not the right color, um, and those are just the outside features. We're not even talking about what comes from deep in. So, how did you get this deep, passionate reason to want to help people like me and our listeners?
Mm. Well, kind of a long story, but isn't that why we're here? To talk on a
Absolutely.
podcast and share stories. I grew up on a farm in Canada, in Alberta, in the province of Alberta, and I had a really happy childhood. Everything was wonderful. Of course, there were some stories about money and some stories here and there about what I could and couldn't do, but for the most part, it was I had happily married parents, the whole thing. And when I was 16 years old, my dad died suddenly. He was just ripped out of our lives, and it changed the trajectory of my life incredibly. In that moment of his death, I made all sorts of decisions and created all sorts of beliefs in my mind. My dad was my greatest cheerleader. He always said, "You have so much potential." So when he died, I immediately decided that there was no one else that would ever tell me that. And so I gave up. I believed that the universe did not have my back, that there was no God. I became very, very angry. I started believing that men would always just leave. You name it, I came up with the belief, right? And that's usually what happens when we experience some sort of trauma, whether it be an intense trauma like a death or an intense trauma or a milder trauma, sorry, of just underlying stress. But those beliefs carried me forward into my 20s, where I then, you name the bad decision, Cindy made it. Cocaine addiction, abusive relationships, men that would always leave me because I believed that to be true. I loved how you were saying, when we look in the mirror, we see this version of ourselves. But when we're looking at other humans, we're also looking in the mirror. That's how our brains operate, with these mirror neurons in our brains. So when you look at me and you love my hair,
Yeah.
you see the possibility in that, right? So take that to the deeper level of, I believed in my mind and in my heart that men would always leave. So what did I do? I went out, and the world mirrored that belief back to me. And so men always left, men treated me like crap, etc., etc. And I just continued to make poor decisions for years. 3 years of deep cocaine addiction. And as I was going through this, there was always a piece of me that kept searching. that wanted to know the answers. I was the why child. I was so curious. And so I've read the Bible front to back, the Quran front to back, went through this deep religious study. I also studied personal development, the Brendan Burchards, the Tony Robbins, the T. Harv Ekers, 30 years of personal development. And it didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter what book I read or what coach I worked with. I wasn't having the breakthrough. My kittens are going to destroy things behind me. I apologize.
I love it. I have another podcast host whose cats just like jump in her face and go on her neck. So no problem.
I'm used to it around here. So all 30 years of studying and searching and making bad decisions because nothing was changing in my life. I couldn't get to that point where something finally changed. And, we hear this belief from people all the time, well, people never change. And I have found something, a tool that I use in my life and with my clients that actually creates change. And so I discovered this tool through my mentor in 2018, and it changed my life forever in 90 days.
Wow.
And so I became very passionate about that because obviously after 30 years of no change to then 90 days, complete difference in my life, I went, hang on, let me teach this. And so now I have become the exclusive trainer of this program, and it has changed thousands of lives. And it's mind-boggling how much impact it has on the world. And so I can't help but be passionate about it. Even just talking about it, my whole body's lighting up. I'm like, yeah, let's do this.
Well, and we all want things to happen right now. And most of the things that we try, and I'll give an example. A year ago, I was on some pretty heavy medication, and it was just blowing my body up. And I would sit here doing a podcast, and all I could see was this big face. And somebody said to me, "Have you seen that commercial on TV for Golo?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, oh no, it's terrific. And it's like a gummy, and you take it, and it's, you know." So I asked my doctor about it. He looked at it. He said, "Well, it's probably not going to help you, but it's not going to harm you."
Right.
And so I tried it, and everything said, "You will see a change in 30 to 60 days."
Mm-hmm.
I had cut back my eating. I tried more exercise. At the end of 60 days, I had lost 0 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a podcast about it. Like, I watch the commercials. I see it all online. Why isn't it working? And finally, I had a doctor who contacted me, not mine, and he said, "We're all different.
Yeah.
Remember that our bodies respond to things differently. So do yourself a favor, Karen, and don't buy into a medication
Mm-hmm.
or a program. Number one, you have to be totally invested in it, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to understand the whole program." He
Mm-hmm.
said, "All you understood was, I'm going to take 2 of these in the morning and 2 at night. And what it told you to do is not change your eating habits." And
Mm-hmm.
what happened was my body didn't know what to do. I had changed eating habits. I was taking this stuff that told me not to change it. And I said, "You know what? I can't be passionate about this because I didn't do it right." But I hear what you're saying, that part of this works if you give yourself to it.
Yes, and I love that you're bringing up this gummy, right? It never fails. There's always a story in every thread. And so the program that I teach is not a bunch of information that I throw at you. That's not what it is. It is what we call a transformational journey through the law of divine timing that helps you to understand the technology that you have available to you in your own body. It helps you bring you back to your own power. So let's take this gummy example, right? If I'd like to lose some weight, I've got these health challenges, whatever it might be. And so I see this commercial where a company who is driven by profit would like me to purchase said product, and therefore I am going outside of myself for something because I think that that thing is more powerful than me. And so I take that thing and then it doesn't work. And then I go, well, there must be something wrong with me. I'm different. Maybe it just doesn't work for me. It works for everybody else, but doesn't. And then we start that cycle of judgment and criticism again, right?
Right.
So what this program does, it is 10 weeks. We walk you through the divine timing cycle. And in that cycle, you come back to the truth of who you are and the power that we each have available to us. It helps you to trust yourself more and to make more powerful decisions, and to recognize that when you are drawn to something based on your intuition versus drawn to something based on cool advertising, it's a completely different journey. Right? If you had been drawn to that gummy because your intuition was just pulling you and saying, oh my God, do this thing, this is the answer, you would have had different results. But you saw some cool advertising and somebody said,
Right.
this will work, right? And so giving that power to something outside of yourself resulted in not great results. But when we give our own, when we stand in our power, and we recognize that we have the power to make all of the decisions for our health, our wealth, our career, everything, and that we have the power to create our reality, totally different results.
So, how did you finally stumble across this? Because it sounds like you were making all those bad decisions. So, what made you think that this was going to be a good decision rather than another bad one?
Yeah, so when I was 35-ish, somewhere around there, I'm dating myself, but in that I was working at a dive bar and I was closing the bar at night by myself as a single female. And I would have to walk out into a dark parking lot by myself and leave the bar. And so it wasn't great. And my boss, in his infinite wisdom, had left me a baseball bat behind the bar for quote unquote protection. Great. Excellent. So I'm a farm girl, right? And my dad was a black belt in karate. So I felt, I'm strong. I can do this. Well, one night I was attacked behind the bar. Now I didn't have to use the baseball bat, but I had to threaten with the baseball bat. And that night when I left, I was like, I am done. I am so much more than this. I don't know what that looks like, but I am done. So as I'm driving home, this song comes on the radio by Hailstorm, I Am the Fire. And there is a line in that song that says, you are the one that you've been waiting for. And it just, something struck me about it. And I just started listening. So I put the song on repeat and I just listened to it over and over. 3 o'clock in the morning, here I am on Google going, what else can I do? Career searching. I decided to go back to school. I took event and promotions management, got halfway through a deep, intense college degree and went, nope, this isn't it either. And halfway through that college year, I decided to start my own business as a virtual assistant. And I wanted to be a virtual assistant for healers, coaches, and spiritual teachers. That's who I wanted to support because I had been involved in personal development for so long. So as part of our curriculum, we were supposed to volunteer at events. And I happened to find an event that had 150 women of my ideal client. And I thought, that's the one. I'm going to go into that room and I'm going to get my new client base out of that room, which I did. I walked out of that room with 7 new clients in a weekend.
Wow.
So I started my business as a virtual assistant. At that event, I met this woman. Her name was Joy Kingsborough. And she was talking about this weird universal law numbers thing. And I thought, I was very, very down to earth and logical and none of this woo-woo. Don't give me any of that. And so I thought, this is just weird. But she was doing a Facebook Live every day. And she would speak to the numerology of the day. And I started paying attention. And all of a sudden I was like, hang on a second. This is actually pretty scientific. There's something to this. This is not woo. So I listened for probably a year before I really finally connected with her. But because I was doing events planning, she was doing retreats. So she hired me to do a couple of events. She lived locally. And in that, I got to know her a little bit more. And then one year, 2017, she says to me, you keep showing up in my meditations that we need to work together for a year. And I'm like, okay. At the time, I was burnt out in adrenal fatigue, PayPal to PayPal, borrowing from the bank of mom, not sure how I was going to pay rent. I was exhausted. I was working 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, just trying to make ends meet. Farm girl, if you just work harder, you'll eventually be successful.
Right.
Yeah, it turns out that doesn't work. So we get on a Zoom call and she has a conversation with me for an hour. At the end of that hour, I said, what do I have to lose? What I'm doing right now isn't working. So take my money. And I invested $10,000 that I did not have to work with her for a year. The money showed up. I was able to pay for that. And it changed my life forever, forever. So chance, I don't believe in randomness. I believe that the universe pulls certain people into our experience when we are ready, and she showed up in my experience when I was ready.
And it's interesting because if you would have asked me, 10 or 15 years ago, did I believe that? I
Mhm.
would have said, no. No, there's a connection, maybe she said it and then somebody else went to this person and whatever. But I
Mhm.
do believe it because, just about probably longer than 15 years now that I think about it. Um, my youngest son, is diagnosed on the autism spectrum. The first
Mhm.
6 years of his life, he was neurotypical.
Mhm.
One day he got a diagnosis and all of a sudden, the sky fell.
Mhm.
Um, and I was very supportive of whatever the doctors and therapists told us we had to do. But it was right about the time he started high school that I got involved in an autism organization.
Mhm.
And I kept waiting for somebody to bring me the goods.
Mhm.
Nobody was. And the way I was doing that was I was just going to volunteer my hours over and over and over again. And talk about burnout. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week at a job, helping take, co parenting my son with my husband
Mhm.
and putting all this time into this volunteer organization. So somebody would come to me and say, we have the answer.
Right.
Um, it wasn't until, like I said, he started high school that this light went off in my head. Karen, you're doing this all wrong. And you got to think about how you're going to do it. So I sort of took a couple steps back for a couple of years. Um, when he graduated high school, I turned to him and I said, "You have a story to tell."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yes, I do. Where can I tell it?" And I said, "I'm going to get you booking engagements." Because I
Yeah.
knew what I wanted to do. I
Mhm.
wanted to come out of this deep, dark hole that we all went into on his diagnosis because he still was very neurotypical despite having this syndrome that occasionally, made him think differently, act
Mhm.
differently. But 99% of the time, he acted neurotypical.
Right.
And yet I was spending all my time on that other end, which we weren't hitting. And that's when I started realizing that if you open up your mind, if you look around, if you don't judge people, oh, that's the person I really want to talk to because I like her suit. I like the way she wears her hair. Oh, and her voice is great. No, I had to stop doing that. And I had
Mhm.
to look around the room. And maybe I found somebody who looked like they had been on the park bench outside and somehow got into this meeting just because they saw people walking into a warm building. But
Yeah.
I kept taking those chances. And the
Mhm.
fact was, that's when I could start looking at myself and saying, you know, there's something I like about myself. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so that sort of sounds like what you're trying to help people with is that stop looking for that perfect picture
Yeah. Yeah.
because that perfect picture may not be your passion.
Yeah, because we spend so much time looking outside of us and seeing what everyone else is doing. What do? We then compare and judge ourselves that we're not doing good enough, right? Or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not making enough money, I don't have the right vehicle, you name it, right? We're constantly in that story. And when we start to recognize our own human uniqueness, then we get to choose our own extraordinary life, whatever that looks like. I used to think that I wanted the mansion and the Ferrari and the fancy, all of the things. But when I got really radically honest with myself, I realized that was after years of studying the Brendan Burchards and T. Harv Ekers of the world, that was what they showcased in their marketing, right? And so I thought it was what I wanted, but I had been programmed to want it. So when I got really true to here, to my heart, and I really sat with it, I realized actually, I'd like to drive a Ferrari, not own one. I want a nice, beautiful home, but do I really want 7 bedrooms? No, because who's going to clean that?
Yeah.
I want to travel. I want experience. I don't want to be stuck in a home that I can't leave because I'm too busy cleaning it, right? So there became a clearer vision of what my extraordinary looked like. And then I started to see what everybody else's extraordinary might look like when they got honest with themselves about what was true for them instead of looking out there into the mirror and comparing themselves in the mirror.
So, do you have something that you can tell us a little bit more about this program
Yeah.
to entice our listeners and myself? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things I might be doing to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'd love to do is share the 6 stages of the divine timing
Sure.
cycle in a story so that you can see how it unfolds. So, I work with clients, mostly entrepreneurs, life coaches, healers, those types of humans, and all humans are welcome. But usually what happens is once somebody discovers this cycle, they want to go and teach it themselves. That's usually what happens because they're like, oh my God, it's the secret to the universe. So I have studied universal law deeply, and one of the laws that drives everything in this universe is called the law of divine timing. Now, in the spiritual realm, we hear this a lot of everything in divine timing, but there is a way to leverage each stage of divine timing, knowing where you're at, so that you can be doing certain things in each stage to speed the process up, right?
Okay.
We're not just these human beings that are at the whim of divine timing. We are participating in the divine timing cycle. So it's a cycle, which means it's a circle. So there's no start or end. So I just pick a point and we're going to start with awareness. Awareness is everything. If you're not aware that you would like something to change or you would like something more, or you're not aware that you could experience more extraordinary, you can't really change, right? So you become aware of, I would like to experience more money. Let's go with a money story. Why not? I would like to experience more money in my life. I would like to use this money to experience more adventure, more travel, a better home, whatever it might be, right? I'm very aware of this. Now, here's what humans do. Okay, I'm aware that I want more money, so there must be something I need to do in order to get more money. Stop doing that. I tried that for years and it did not work, and it resulted in adrenal fatigue. What we need to do and the steps we skip over are, so we have awareness. Second step of divine timing, acceptance. I accept that I do not have that money right now, and I deeply forgive myself anyway. I love and accept myself as I am right here, right now. And there's some tools that we teach to provide that.
Sure.
Obviously, it's not as simple as just saying that statement.
Right.
It goes a lot deeper than that. But I'm going through this quickly for the purpose of a podcast. So we have this acceptance of what is. So, for example, I'll use a personal story. This might be easier. So I am aware right now that I would like a new home. My boyfriend and I are in the process of buying a new home. So awareness, I love my apartment and I would like bigger space, and I'm sick and tired of an elevator. I would like to just walk in the front door. I'm keeping it simple. So then there was this acceptance of, holy crap, could I be a homeowner? I don't know. I've never been a homeowner before. That feels scary. I accept that I am scared. I accept that I'm a bit nervous about this and uncertain. So it's a moment of feeling the feelings, right? Which most of us would really rather skip
Right.
over. I know I'm good at that. We cannot bypass our feelings. We can't, because it creates misaligned manifestation. So we feel our feelings and we give ourselves a moment. You can do this in a day. Sometimes with the deeper stuff, it takes longer. Then we move to the next stage of divine timing, which is the hardest for every human I've ever met. Good old self-responsibility. You have to decide that you're going to do it. You have to make the decision. The universe does not just hand us a house on a silver platter. You've got to decide, I'm going after this. I want to be a homeowner. I choose a house over an apartment, right? So I came into that. I felt all my feelings and all this stuff and insecurity and, oh crap, who am I? And can I afford this? I don't know if I have the money. Oh my God, I'm an entrepreneur. Can I make the money? All of that to, yeah, I'm going to be a homeowner. Once we make that decision, it's called pull up our adult pants, in other terms,
Like that.
right? Then we move into activation. Now, activation is where we start asking, okay, but how? And it's not our job to know all the hows. So as a project manager, event planner, I was trained to look at the end vision and then reverse engineer it step by step by step by step by step, all the way to the beginning, and then just create a to-do list of 52 million things and just do the to-do list, right? But when we do that, we're basically telling the universe that I'm going to control this whole situation, and the universe is not participating with me. And so therefore, what happens? Stress, adrenal fatigue, burnout, right? Because that to-do list is
Right.
never ending. So we must create room for inspiration and have a limited amount of the how. So in buying the house, I've never bought a house before. I have no idea how to do this. I don't know what's next. So I say, well, okay, what do I need to do? Find a mortgage broker. Okay, step one. Once I do that, then that opens up the next possibilities for me, because I don't know what all the next steps are, right? So I have a conversation with a mortgage broker. Now I've got next steps, right? Now, this is a prime example. Sometimes you're led down this windy, weavy path that doesn't make any sense. So we hired a mortgage broker who was a bully and very much of the idea that if he just confused my mind with big words, that I would do what he said. So we went down a windy, weird path with this mortgage broker. But in that, I let go of the control, the how, and I just trusted myself. And I went, no, I want to be a homeowner. I've decided that this is a thing and this isn't working out for me. So we've got to pivot. And so I'm willing to do what it takes to become a homeowner, even if it means having a very uncomfortable conversation and firing my mortgage broker, which I did. So we found a new mortgage broker. Everything's great. So now we move into the next stage of divine timing. We move into momentum or acceleration. Now, this is the sweet spot. This is the moment when everything's starting to come together and things are happening. The offer is closed on the house. We've got financing coming into place. There's paperwork going left, right, and center all over the place. It is moving fast. And many times people get to this stage in divine timing and they go, oh crap, it's too much. I can't do it. It's too good to be true. All this other stuff is triggering me. There's too much happening. And so what do? We sabotage. I'm out, right? And it's that invitation, as I always say, it's like being in a boat surrounded by sharks. Just keep your hands in the dang boat. Stay focused. I am a homeowner. I am a homeowner. I am a homeowner. And I'm willing to do what it takes. So I sign the paperwork and I read boring legal documents and back and forth with the mortgage broker. And all is well. And I trust the process. And I keep going. Just like Dory, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Which then moves us into the last, there's another stage, I'll talk about that in a minute, but the sixth stage of divine timing, which is transmutation or transformation. It is when the change occurs. So the day that I have the key in my hand to unlock the door to my house will be transmutation. And so I just keep going until I have said house, right? Now, there's something that occurs. So once you go through transmutation, you go back into the divine timing cycle again. You come back into awareness. But there is a space between transmutation and awareness that must be acknowledged. It's that moment of celebration, of honoring, of, holy crap, I'm a homeowner now. Of taking a breath and allowing that to integrate into the cells of the body so that when you go into awareness again, you go into awareness as this changed being so that you can then ask for more of what's next.
I love that. I love that. And as you were telling your story, it's interesting because my youngest moved to Fort Worth, Texas, a little over 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, he didn't really understand all the steps he was going to go through. He knew about the job, obviously, and that was fine. And it's even better than he thought. But now he's living on his own in an apartment. We tried to tell him the things that he had to prepare for. But one of the things that we didn't even think about was he's been driving a car that was in my name up here. He got it when he was just going into college. And he drove that down to Texas. And then I realized, well, it needed license tags in March. Problem is, it would need an inspection up here in Ohio. And so I sort of did what you did. Okay, I need to process this. I need to put it together because I just can't say, here, take care of it. He doesn't know what he has to take care of. And so part of it was, me signing over the lien on the car to him and then, sending it to him. Well, I sent a note today and I then very easily told him these are the things that I know you have to do.
Yeah.
But you're in Texas, so I need you to figure out the rest.
Yeah.
And he got my message and he called me and was like totally overwhelmed. Well, yeah, I said, take a breath.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been there. I understand it. You are overwhelmed. There are a lot of things that happen in a move. It's not just you go and move into your apartment and everything is set up for you, unless you get it that way,
Yeah.
which his wasn't. I said, and I didn't even know this was going to happen with the car. So I'm not being apologetic. I'm just telling you straight out, this is what is. And it was like, why me? Why me? And at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not going to even discuss this.
Yeah.
And then he finally sent me a text message. Okay. With the list of what he has to do
Yeah.
and how he's going to do it. And so I find myself and him in that same, and other people in that same situation that there's something you want to do, but if you don't process or have somebody help guide you, okay, and that's usually what we need. You needed a mortgage person to help
Yeah.
guide you, but you had to be aware if this mortgage person was working for you or for himself.
Yep.
And in your business, I'm sure, you could spot that a little easier than some of us who just want to trust.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the keys of my work is that you start to trust yourself more. You start to listen to those nudges. I mean, all of us hear those nudges. Every human on the planet has intuition. That's how we're built. But we're also programmed and trained not to listen to said intuition, right? Because
Right.
it's woo-woo and you're crazy. And what do you mean you're going to move across the country, right? So learning to trust yourself and be discerning and to actually take action on that little voice, that's the key of the work that I do. This work expands your intuition so that you're no longer looking outside for that answer and tell me what to do and that gummy and this piece. And you start coming within more often and you start listening to that. And then you are pulled to the human that's going to help you, because we're all in this together. We do need other humans.
That's right.
But instead of going, that human's going to solve my problem and rescue me, it becomes a collaboration between humans, rather than I need you to rescue me and I'm going to demand all this stuff from you. It's a, hey, I'm choosing to be a homeowner. Can you help me? Because you know the answers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then also being aware when we go to those experts that some are true experts
Yeah. And
and
that's
some are
discernment,
not.
right?
Because
Yes.
one of the things that I've
Right.
been doing, since I've been, podcasting with wonderful coaches like yourself, I've created this title for myself called Coach Advocate because I
Yeah.
believe in coaching. Not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with therapy, because there's a time and place for
Yes.
therapy.
There was a time and
But
place.
I went to therapy when I really needed coaching, but I didn't know it at the time.
Same, same.
And yeah, and it's so important because since I've really gotten into this and I realize that not every coach is the coach for me. And that's what
Yes.
I tell, people who contact me and say, "Yeah, I'm looking for a coach and this is what I want." And I'll say, "Well, I know of at least 3 individuals that I
Yeah.
can refer you to."
Yeah.
Okay? Now they may not be right once you talk to them, and that's okay. Make
Yeah.
sure that, you get that feeling, because if they're not right,
Yeah.
you're not gonna let them guide you at all. You're
Exactly.
gonna be resistant. And, one of the first coaches I started working with, she does a podcast with me and has been for almost 5 years, and I have learned so much in just listening to her. Never once has she suggested I do anything. Not,
Right.
it's like, come on, now we're friends. Could you suggest it? And she'll go, no, that's not even who I am.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I realize that for so much of my life, I'd go to my mother, I'd go to my brothers, I'd go to my best friend. And I was doing things that fit their lifestyle, not mine.
Yep.
And when it didn't work, it was like they were blaming me. You didn't follow my directions. And it's like, but I did.
Yeah.
So you're right. If it comes from us,
Yeah.
that that's important.
Yeah.
So you told me that at 16 you lost your dad, and I know that that's hard for anyone at that age. I mean, at 16 we're just trying to decide if we're pretty enough to go to the prom.
Yep.
Um or if you're a guy, if you're not too awkward to ask some girl out.
Yeah.
Um but a father has that, typically will have that essence of, you are my baby girl, you're always going to be my baby girl, uh and hopefully I've taught you enough to get on in life.
Yeah.
Was it truly his sudden death that sort of threw you, or could it have been just being a 16-year-old at the
Mm.
time?
Yeah, no, looking back on my life, I've thought about this a lot. Thank you. That's a great question. It was definitely the throwing of, or sorry, my dad dying. Absolutely. That threw me into it, because at the time I was very ambitious. I was going to be a lawyer. I was a straight A student. I was getting, my dad taught me calculus when I was 12 years old. He was a mechanical engineer. I got straight A's all through school, and when he died, everything changed. It was literally the next day I just gave up on life. I stopped caring. um we have these experiences in life, whether it be the death of a loved one, or you get in a car accident, or divorce. Even, it doesn't even have to be so traumatic, even though it is very traumatic. What I have experienced in my work is that there is not a single human on the planet who has not experienced trauma in some way, shape, or form. And it's how we grow from those experiences, I think, that's the key. And sometimes it takes you 30, 25 years, like it did for me. I would like to share that it does not have to take you that long. When you have the right tools and the people around you that are going to support you and point you in the direction that's right for you, then when you start to trust yourself, you can change your experience much faster than I did. I always joke around, I'm always the coach who will tell you what not to do because I've tried it and it didn't work. So don't do it that way.
I totally understand that. I used to blame it on the fact that I was the youngest of three. I have two older brothers. Um, and my parents, as much as my mother loved having her little doll that she could dress up when I was little, um, as I went through puberty, um, I wasn't her little doll anymore. And I had a cousin who became her um, teenage model, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so I saw those changes, but I kept looking around. Who am I supposed to be like? Should I be like my brothers? Um, and I suffered with it. Nobody, nobody ever said those things to me. I mean,
Mhm.
I tried digging into my brain. My mother never said I wasn't cute enough or I wasn't good enough, but I heard those voices.
Yeah.
And it truly wasn't until, oh golly, till I maybe hit 60 that I
Mm.
woke up one day and said, you know what? If I'm as lucky as my parents and live another 30 plus years, I don't want to live this way anymore. You know, and yes, I may not like a physical feature about myself sometimes, but that's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
I've got to look in the mirror like my father would every morning and
Yeah.
find one thing about myself I liked at that moment. And
Yeah.
once I started doing that, that's when I knew, okay, the things I want to do in life, I'm going to be able to do. And
Yes.
I don't have those ambitions either, like you. Ferrari, I could care less.
Yeah.
My husband once had a Porsche. It was too expensive for us to drive. We sold it. Um, my house is, a 3-bedroom townhouse. It's big enough. I don't need all the luxuries.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I need is the partner that I have in life. Okay. Two grown sons who I can count on for just about anything.
Mhm.
And what I call just a handful of friends
Yeah.
that are truly my friends. So
Yeah.
on Facebook, it may say I have 3,000 friends. No, I don't. I have 3,000 acquaintances on
Right?
Facebook, but
Yeah.
I have that handful.
Yeah. I love that you brought it back around to, the beginning of my story when I said dad was my greatest cheerleader. He always saw the potential in me. I think the whole point is to be your own greatest cheerleader.
Yeah.
No matter what your upbringing, no matter what programming you were programmed with, we all are programmed. Our little brains are just computers waiting to be programmed, right? Doesn't matter what you grew up with. If you become your own greatest cheerleader, you will have a better life, period.
Well, with that, Cindy, tell my listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am all over social media. Just find my name. Otherwise, my website will direct you to all the places, fullblastcoaching.com.
Well, and all this will be in the show notes. So there's no excuse for somebody to say, boy, I don't remember. I can't find it because I also put newclevelandradio@gmail.com in there. So if you forgot what you wanted, all you have to do is contact me. I look up the show. I'll even send you the link if you want to listen to it again.
Beautiful.
Cindy, it was wonderful having you on today. Um, I'm so excited to hear about the new house. Uh, so we are going to stay tuned and maybe we'll have you back and you can really talk to us about what that process was really
Mm.
like because it is a scary process buying that first house. So I'm excited though for you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And to all of you listening out there, thank you. Know that you are loved and just be your own greatest cheerleader. Look yourself in the mirror every day and say one beautiful thing about yourself.
You are absolutely correct. Have a great day. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye bye.